Good morning. Welcome to the jungle on this last day of June 2020. I am Whitney Mendoza, managing partner with Liger Partners, and I am joined this morning by Austin Pearl. He is a financial advisor with CIC Wealth. Good morning, Austin.
Good morning, Whitney.
And you have the perfect last name. It was funny because when we originally were talking the first time, you're really going to share pearls of wisdom with us today.
Hopefully.
Yeah. No, I love it. So tell us about you. I know your amazing story, but you used to work for the Department of Defense, yes. So tell us about that, and then what led you to become a financial advisor today?
Sure. So to sort of understand kind of my interest in personal finance and why it's so important to me, you really have to go back to sort of my early childhood. And this is going to sound sort of bad, but I mean, if I'm being honest, personal finance was sort of my childhood trauma. Some very, very close members of my family, without naming names, really lost control of their finances. And it really caused a lot of problems for my family, caused a lot of discord, a lot of tension, a lot of sort of blame and those types of issues. So prudent financial decision making has just always weighed very heavily on me since I was a kid. But of course, when you're a young adult, you don't really know sort of what you want to do or what you want to be when you grow up. And I went to college at the George Washington University. I studied international affairs because I had a passion for national security as well. And then when I got out of school, I went to work for the Department of Defense as a professional intelligence officer. Which is kind of like a person who aggregates tremendous amounts of intelligence that we're collecting around the world and then tells senior leaders in DC what it means. 2008 financial meltdown hits, and it brought back so many things that happened when I was a kid. And I saw so many coworkers and friends making just textbook financial mistakes.
Yeah.
A sort of light switch, flipped in me. I started spending all my personal time, reading on personal finance and sort of becoming an authority on it. And before I knew it, kind of friends and family were coming to me and asking questions and asking for advice. And I realized that my real passion and my future laid with helping people make optimal financial decisions.
Yeah. We have Eric Holtzclaw, that's a partner here at Liger Partners, especially when we talk about entrepreneurship. He's always said there's two kind of entrepreneurs. There's rectify and magnify. And you had something to rectify, right? Like you saw this issue when you were little and you didn't necessarily know how it was going to play out when you were older today, but those really make some of the best businesses and the best, career choices is this problem that you see and you come back to it and you're like, I can totally fix this to prevent it ever happening again, at least in my family and for others.
So if you've ever seen the film, The Blues Brothers.
Yes, it's been a while, but I have.
There's multiple times in the movie where people kind of ask them like, why are you doing this? And, and John Belushi invariably responds, we're on a mission from God. It's sort of like that kind of thing for me.
Right. Yeah. So something else that we talked about that I really appreciate about what you do is you also tied in your experience with the Department of Defense and also helping those military men and women that are transitioning from the military back into kind of normal civilian life. Tell us about that and how you help them.
Sure. So when you're even as a federal civilian, and even more so, for uniformed people, you're in this very sort of kind of set structure. A lot of things are done for you. A lot of things,
yes.
You're very often told what to do. You have a huge, especially on the military side, you have a really huge like HR support structure. You've got your, you're going to have your pension, you're going to have your thrift savings plan and all these sort of different things. And then a lot of people get out and those structures are completely gone. And they go from having this little sort of subsection of options to the entire world of decision-making and options. And a lot of people really need help to make that transition and to make sure that they're making the right choices. And some of these choices are really serious. I mean, if you're coming out of the military and you've got to choose survivors benefit pensions, for example,
Yeah.
there's many scenarios where your choice is not going to be able to be changed later. It's irrevocable, and that is the decision. And then, so going from that support structure, it's almost like a system that's like kind of on rails, if you want. It's like going from like bumper bowling to sort of regular bowling. All of a sudden that ball can jump lanes and, end up in a completely different place.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so important though, because you're really guiding these men and women, in that transition where they have dedicated so much of their time, literally, putting their life at risk. And then, they transition back out and they just need that guidance on, okay, great. What do I need to do now?
Sure.
And that's one of the really important decisions. So I really appreciate that about, kind of your part of your niche of what you do.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And actually, I think one other thing I should say too is that you have a big HR support structure a lot of times in the very beginning and at the very end. I've seen many cases where, especially where federal civilians have gone years without looking at their thrift savings plans, without looking at their sort of investment decision making, and not realize the implications of what they chose when they walked in on day one when they were 23 years old. And that can also be a very, very dangerous situation, because I will tell you, in all areas of personal finance, there's this very amorphous, abstract concept called time that gets a vote. And actually, the more of it that passes, the bigger the vote is that time has as a force on your personal finances.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very insightful and so true. Time does get a vote. I also wanted to ask, because I found this so interesting, your philosophy towards money. So,
Sure.
I want to read this to make sure I get it correct, but a person's relationship with money is the third most important factor impacting their mental and physical well-being after their health and relationships with family. Walk us through that.
Okay. Yeah. So it's the third most important, foundational part of their life after physical health and personal relationships. So essentially, you've got sort of the little micro things that make you, that make or break your day, your week, your life. But at the end of the day, you have a foundation that is essential for your well-being, and that is obviously your physical health. I mean, that's something that can, sort of make or break a person or make or break their life. Relationships with friends and family, incredibly important. And then there is personal finance. And, we have this saying that, that this kind of truism in our society that we always repeat, that money can't make you happy. Money can't buy happiness, right? That is absolutely true. However, it can sure as hell make you miserable as well.
Right.
So there's a side to that truism that we just never, it's so easy to gloss over. And I mean, frankly, I have lived that, I have seen that sort of firsthand. And it doesn't, and by the way, I want to be super clear, doesn't mean you have to be rich, doesn't mean you have to be well off. It means that you have to have confidence in your financial future and clarity in the steps you need to take to get to that financial future that you are happy with and you are satisfied with. If you have tremendous uncertainty about your personal financial future, it will eat you.
Literally.
And it will make you miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. If you are laying awake at night wondering how you're going to make the next bill payments, yeah, I mean, that right there is fundamental, especially for me, right? Like, I'm one of those people, I just have to have my sleep. And if I'm not, I'm just not me.
Sure.
And that's a fundamental. And then you think of everything else, and I definitely want to tie this to COVID, because I feel like the current time has brought this even more to the forefront, right? We kind of always heard this phrase, prepare for a rainy day.
Yeah.
But you're not so much worried about the rainy day because in the moment you can't see the clouds, right? You don't see the
100%.
lightning, you don't hear the thunder, the sun is shining and we're going to be fine. And then all of a sudden the wind comes in and then you've got a storm. And at that moment it's too late, right? If you're standing out in the middle of the field, the lightning's going to strike.
Right.
So I definitely want to bring attention to that, because I also think of everything else that goes on in an individual family's life, right? If you already have someone that has health concerns and you have money going toward that, your car breaks down, you have to have a car. So all those things are important just for the well-being, as you so greatly put it, your well-being, and finance plays into that. And so with kind of this cloud of fear that a lot of people are living under now with COVID, and either, the fear of it coming back in the fall or something else like it is going to happen, or maybe they're just trying to crawl out of the hole that COVID round one, if you will, caused. What would you have them know? Like, what would you want us to know?
So what I would say is, let's build upon your field analogy, right? If you want to have a shelter when the storm comes, you have to be always gradually building the house, even when times are good and the sun is shining. And I'm talking about, obviously, at the centerpiece, the center of what I do is kind of the financial plan, but there's many components of that. There's an emergency fund. There's, dollar cost averaging over time to ensure that you have, that your retirement is going to be okay if there is a COVID or if there is a 2008. And what I will tell you is, obviously COVID is just the craziest sort of thing that nobody ever envisions happening.
Yeah.
But to the investing world and the financial world, it's just the latest crisis. There's always crises and there's always things. Even before COVID, whenever we build a financial plan, what we will do is we will show people, hey, this is what your portfolio looks like if 2008 happens. This is how it would impact this portfolio. Are you comfortable with that from a risk perspective? Would that keep you up at night? Would you be okay with that? So obviously COVID, completely crazy, completely, unprecedented in our lifetimes, but from a planning perspective, almost par for the course, in the sense of these are the exact types of things that we think about. But what I would say at the centerpiece is, people need to have long-term goals, and they need to always be preparing to accomplish those goals. And it doesn't mean that they have to sort of build a house in a day. It means that they have to have a plan to accomplish their goals, over time.
Yes, I couldn't say yes more to that. That's so true. I mean, because it's, even though at the time COVID didn't have a name, you're right. It's very similar to, over the years, anything else that's happened that we need to be planning for.
Yeah.
And there will be another, COVID thing that will happen down the road, right? We don't have a name for it. It may not be COVID proper, but there's something else that's going to happen down the road that if we're not planning now, it's going to catch up with us, right? If we don't learn from what we have seen in the year 2020, then we're going to hit some problems. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about, and I kind of want to preface this because it's getting into how our emotions play into money and our financial planning. But I wanted to get your take on this, because something that I read recently, and I mentioned this on another podcast I was on, is Mark Mason, who's the author of The Art of Not Giving an F, recently posted on social media. He said, humans tend to overreact in the short term and underreact in the long term. So I was curious about that. When we were talking about understanding how people's emotions kind of control them in times of uncertainty.
Sure. Yeah. I gotta check that book out. And
So good.
Totally agree with what he said. So there's a lot of research that credibly shows that fear of loss psychologically impacts people more than the prospect of gain. So
wow.
In other words, if I say, Whitney, I'm going to give you $2, or I'm going to take away $2 from you, the taking of your mind automatically is focused on, oh my God, he's going to take away $2 of my dollars.
Yeah. That's so true. I never thought about it that way, but
yeah,
that's so very true.
So now let's add in somebody's life savings, and think about the incredibly powerful emotions that one feels during a crisis. So for these reasons, the tendency of most people is just to focus on avoiding loss during times of crisis. And I'll tell you, I mean, I saw it a lot during 2008. And I'll tell you what most people usually do, what the gut instinct is for your average person. And this is totally understandable, by the way. I used to be the same exact way until I understood the psychology behind it. What most people want to do, they want to sell out of their equities. They want to move into very conservative investments or cash and wait until the perceived danger is over. And can that work? Sure. However, it rarely works because, again, time gets a vote. When will you know the crisis is over? When will you really know that things have, snapped back to a state of normalcy and the market is pricing in good times again?
Yeah.
What many, many people do is they end up staying in safe harbors for too long and then getting back into equities after the best gains have passed. And I knew people who got out of the market in 2008 and stayed out of the market for years and missed the best parts of 2009, the best parts of 2010, 11, 12, and really, the sort of lower the market goes, generally speaking, the better the gains that lie ahead and the faster it can sort of snap back unexpectedly. I mean, this March was an extreme example of that because, things just completely cratered and, it's the end of the world. It's the end of the world. And then all of a sudden, things just for whatever reason, just kind of skyrocketed ahead. So what I really focus on doing is I try to help people, understand this context, understand the psychology that's impacting them and why their impulses are what they are. I like to always highlight the sort of pros and cons of different courses of action. And most importantly, I try to focus them on things that are productive no matter what, such as markets crash. If you have extra cash, now's a great time to put it in. If markets crash and it's appropriate for this person, hey, why don't we Roth convert some of your IRA and use this downturn as an opportunity to put more money away for the long term. It's appropriate for your family. Why don't we give some money now to your kids while markets are down, or give some assets while you can basically give more shares at a lower value than you would when markets are up. So that's really where my head is during these things is, I used to run away just like everyone else. I used to be the same exact way, and I've evolved into what can we do that's tried and true and positive under any scenario, but even more positive when everyone else is running and screaming.
Yeah, that's so good. All right, so as we wrap up, what would you have us young folks know? So the millennials out there, maybe those that are just graduating college and they're entering the workforce, in the middle of a pandemic, essentially. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say a few things. The first thing is that your first 100,000 is the hardest. Getting to your first 100,000 in your 20s, it's going to feel impossible sometimes, and it's going to feel debilitating because you're going to see other young people whose families have tons of money, who maybe are who are, no matter what choices that young person makes, they're good, and it can feel it can be easy to feel bitter sometimes. Is what I would say. I could tell you, for me, going to the George Washington University in DC, complete culture shock. I was like, who are these people? That this person, 20 and driving like a BMW. But what I would say is, while you are young, work your butt off and put away as much money as you can, because when you hit certain life milestones, you get married, you have kids, you're going to be just less tolerant of sort of making huge sacrifices, because those huge sacrifices will affect other people like your husband or your wife or your kids. So, I spent a good portion of my 20s basically at least in the Department of Defense, in my early and mid 20s, I volunteered to deploy overseas. I worked overtime and crisis work, and every time I did something like that, I just increased the amount of money going into my retirement accounts. And in finance, momentum is super, super important. And do what you have to do now to get out of debt, or to manage your debt, and to save as much as you can, and to get over that hump. Because once you get over your first 100,000, 200,000, if you get into your early 30s and you can get up to sort of those numbers, the snowball starts to pick up a tremendous amount of momentum as it runs down the hill. So that's my biggest piece of sort of psychological advice, and I think mindset advice. And then the other thing I would say is that there's one thing I'm a perma bear on, Whitney. It's taxes. So if you look at the trajectory of our national debt, national entitlement funds, state level pensions, all the COVID spending, the younger you are, the more you should focus on getting retirement money into tax advantage accounts, and probably Roth IRAs specifically, because it's one of the few ways under current law to basically get your retirement assets potentially out of your taxable estate forever. So I would say Roth and roll.
Nice. Roth and roll. That's nice. Awesome. This has been super insightful. Thank you so much. If people want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Sure. Yeah, LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So
that's where we connected too. So.
Right. Exactly. So you can follow me on LinkedIn. That's a great way to connect. You can just email me, austinp@cicwealth.com. And you could just give me a call. Anyone could call me at any time to talk personal finance. If they have any questions. Look, even if they're not hiring me, like, I am super happy to kind of give people my 2 cents and to give, and to just offer whatever advice I can, because for me, I mean, like we said in the beginning, it's not, it's a job, but it's really, it's more so a passion, first.
Yeah.
And I think I'm glad you asked about young people, because I want young people to succeed. I want people to feel good about where they are and the decisions that they're making. That's what matters to me.
When I would go so far as to say we have the best advantage, right? Like, if you start today, you're going to be that much better off when you're 50 and 60.
So nobody in the universe, no matter what asset level they have, can buy time.
Yeah.
Time is the most precious asset, and if you have it, you got to use it. And everybody crosses through an imaginary threshold, well, not an imaginary, I should say invisible threshold later, where at some point in your life, your only choices become work longer, live on less. The earlier you start paying attention to these things and really think about when you want to retire and how much you need, and then starting to work to get there, the better your outcomes will be later.
So good. Very good. Austin Pearl, financial advisor with CIC Wealth. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
All right. Thanks for having me, Whitney. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And thank you for tuning in to The Jungle. We'll see you next time. Have a good Tuesday.